Alright guys, I haven't done a video on budget fragrances and today I'm doing one. I've got 5 awesome budget fragrances to recommend for men today. I guess one of them can be for women as well. I believe it's unisex, but the majority of these are targeted to men and I think they're really great for their prices. If you're curious to find out about them, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yeah, today we're talking about some inexpensive, budget, cheap fragrances that I think are worth getting, especially if you guys don't like to spend money on expensive fragrances. A lot of you think I'm a snob when it comes to fragrances and I only like expensive fragrances. But for me, if it's cheap and it smells great, I'm all over it. Most of the time, I am pretty snobby when it comes to your regular old designer releases, the ones that get mass marketed and are at like places like Macy's, but there's usually finds that out there that smell really fantastic, and that's what these fragrances are. So I'm going to recommend them for you. We're going to go ahead and get started with the first one, which I think you can buy currently at around $22 for a 100 ml. And it's an eau de parfum concentration. I have a link to it in the info box. It's selling at FragranceNet currently for around $22. This is AJMAL's VERDE right here. So it's a 2020 launch. I don't know the perfumer on this one, and it's a bitter green fragrance. It's definitely very green and also very bitter. It has a very prominent galbanum note. So the galbanum in here kind of comes off a bit like cannabis. It's really kind of bitter, very I guess just the bitterness is really prominent is what I'm trying to say. And it's awfully green as well, so it's a bit ambery, sticky to the experience when you're wearing it, but I really love the galbanum note, and it's a highlight in this particular fragrance. So if you like the idea of galbanum, you should definitely check this one out, especially at $22 approximately, and it won't break the bank. But besides the galbanum, there's lots of leather here. There's cedar, there's sandalwood, there's black pepper, there's ginger, there's bergamot, and jasmine. For me, it reminds me of Tom Ford's Noir Anthracite. I know that fragrance had a lot of hate, but I absolutely love that fragrance because of its chypre-like qualities and that kind of bitter greenness that is associated with galbanum in fragrances. So if you are a fan of Noir Anthracite and you can't find a bottle of it, this is the fragrance you can use as an alternative. It's a great alternative. Get it for the price. It's totally worth it. In fact, get 2 bottles because I think it's great to have one as a backup. 2 bottles, 100 ml. Each for around $44. It's much less than buying 1 bottle at the department store. So highly recommend this one. But as I said, if you are not a fan of fragrances like Noir Anthracite, you're not going to like this. If you are not a fan of galbanum as a note, you're not going to like this. If you're not a fan of bitter, green, leather fragrances, you're not going to like this. But if you are kind of adventurous and you've dabbled in niche perfumery and you've kind of stepped outside of what's commonly being sold at the department stores, you're going to be all over this fragrance because it smells fantastic. And for $22, it is an amazing fragrance. Alright, moving on to the house that I'm not really familiar with too much. It's a house called La Martina, and they have a fragrance called Maserati. So out of all the fragrances here, currently this one is the most expensive. I paid $35 for it. If you do some searching online, you might find it for around that price, $35-$40 for 100 ml. But currently I'm seeing it for around $63. Still pretty inexpensive, and it's a fabulous fragrance. Launched in 2012, and it's super fantastic. I really love it. Its first smell, I smelled it, I had to have a bottle of it. And once again, it's a leather fragrance, but for me, it's what happens at the top in the heart before it gets to the leather that's really kind of important in this particular fragrance. Whereas AJMAL Verde is also a leather, and it becomes leathery pretty fast because of the leather being prominent. For me here with the Maserati, it eventually becomes leathery when it's drying down, but you're kind of really exploring lots of citruses and aromatics before it gets to the leather. So it's kind of fresh and very invigorating, and also on the green and aromatic side, and definitely woody. So if you like the idea of a very fresh fragrance that kind of eventually becomes denser as it's drying down, this is definitely a highlight. I really love it. And the citruses are very sparkling, very effervescent, and of course woody and aromatic as well. The cypress is a wood, but has a very distinct smell, a bit aromatic, a bit camphoric, a bit like pine, but not necessarily, but a very unique smell. Really dig this one. A great discovery. I'm glad I have it. If you can find it for around 35, 40 bucks, even 50 bucks, but as I said, right now I'm seeing it for around 63. I paid 35 bucks for it, and it's a great value even for 63 bucks. So this is La Martina Maserati. Are you guys familiar with that one? Do let me know. So the next fragrance we're going to talk about is the fragrance Rock from the house of Victorinox. So this is a second fragrance I'm featuring from this house. Another one that I had recommended was Black Steel several months ago, which was selling for much less than what this one is currently selling for, but this is also worth it. The other one was more ambery and spicy coniferous. Here we've got more of a minerally leather woods. I guess this is kind of a leather themed so far. This particular fragrance is created by Quentin Bisch. As I said, this is currently at the discounters for 43 bucks. Everything that I'm talking about today, except for the first fragrance, is eau de toilette. AJMAL Verde is eau de parfum. So a lot of these can come off a bit light, but for their price point, just overspray or just take the fragrance with you, or make a decant of it and carry it with you if you need to replenish. But I think this is a great fragrance for that. It has notes of Artemisia, lavender, cedar. There's incense, nutmeg, and benzoin, and leather, patchouli, cumin. For me, it starts off spicy, kind of aromatic, and it becomes smoky. And then of course there's the idea of smoked kind of earth, and then also leather appears as well. But along the way you'll experience some cumin touches in there, very on the light side, and then of course patchouli, the earthiness with that, but definitely has minerally touches, lightly green, and of course aromatic, because you've got the lavender in here. And then the cumin, as I said, it's very minuscule. It's not like very sweaty, although some of you might be more sensitive to cumin than others. For me, I felt like it was almost non-existent, but definitely kind of a very minerally fragrance that I think Quentin Bisch is known for doing minerally fragrances, although this came out quite before he really kind of like bloomed into the world of perfumery and, you know, created some masterpieces like Ganymede and some other fragrances. But this is definitely a very designer, but more interesting than your typical average common designer fragrances that are at the department stores like Macy's. So it has some uniqueness to it because it has these kind of minerally, smoky, incensey, aromatic touches thrown in. So this is Rock from the house of Victorinox. That's the third fragrance I'm talking about. These are definitely worth getting. I think if you are a collector and you love discovering inexpensive fragrances that are quality, definitely get yourself a bottle. And sometimes prices fluctuate, so I don't know, by the time this video airs, the price could come down or the price can go up, and sometimes places run out of stock as well, so I would circle back and check back to see if they've replenished. So the next fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is from the house of Jaguar. When I bought two fragrances from Jaguar early this year at Harrods, they had a clearance and I picked up Jaguar Classic, this one right here. I just took a chance with this one because to me the bottle kind of looked like chrome, and I've worn it several times now. I've actually made this fragrance kind of more like a gym fragrance because I feel like it's that kind of a fragrance. It has its lightness and, you know, the soft kind of musky kind of presence that it's more white musk that is appropriate for a gym kind of a fragrance. So I thought it might have like chrome-like qualities, Azzaro chrome, and I agree that it does have kind of light Azzaro chrome-like you know, presence in there. It kind of reminds me of it a little bit, but for me it doesn't have an uber what do you call it, metallic touch like chrome does. This one does have it a little bit in there, but I think the white musk in there creates for a softness that makes for the fragrance a bit more cozier, and very appropriate for the gym setting. I think it is, because it's clean, it's fresh, it's musky, but clean musk, has aromatic touches and things like that. And if you're looking for like a kind of a dumb reach fragrance, I think this is definitely a very dumb reach fragrance because it's not overly complex, even though it has some some notes that might come off a bit complex, but there's a wateriness about it, a softness about it. So Jaguar Classic was from 2002, or launched in 2002, and it was created by Dominique Preysssas. I don't know the perfumer myself, and it's currently selling for 17 bucks. So I think it's a great fragrance to have. And also, the other thing I should say, a lot of you ladies come to me and ask me, you want to pick up a fragrance for your son. They're kind of growing up, they're teenagers now and things like that. I think a lot of these fragrances can be perfect for if you want to, you know, have a fragrance or purchase a fragrance for someone that you have that's kind of growing, like a child or a boy, a son or something. I think this one would be a great fragrance for a younger, you know, kid. I don't consider it a childish fragrance, but I think it will be a great option. But also a great gym fragrance. And as I said, this is currently selling for 17 bucks. Let me just tell you what the notes are exactly. There's white musk here, there's star anise, juniper berries, lavender, ginger, orange, bergamot, mandarin, basil, orange blossom, lotus, and sandalwood. So as you can see, the notes are perfect for the gym setting. Lotus flower, it's kind of a watery flower, so it contributes to providing a kind of a watery edge to the fragrance, kind of taking it into the aquatic direction. But it's a really prominent white musk note in here, and this is a very clean note and perfect and appropriate for a gym setting or an everyday scent. Because if you're working at a kind of a setting where there's people that are sensitive to fragrances, I think this will be perfect too. So Jaguar Classic is the fourth fragrance I'm talking about today, and this next one I had been eyeing for the longest time, and I finally just added it to my cart and took advantage of it. It's 16 bucks at FragranceNet. Again, I have links to all of these fragrances in the info box down below in the description section. You can take advantage of you know, getting a bottle if you want. This is from a house called ULRIC de VARENS. This is UDV VIP. It's a 2009 fragrance. I think that's what it is. Some of the databases didn't have the date. I believe that's pretty appropriate. And this bottle is $16, so very inexpensive. For me, this is kind of like a classic men's citrus chypre style fragrance. It's definitely very citrusy, so it's a citrus chypre. It does have the classic touches to it. Could be something from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, I don't know, somewhere around there. But kind of modern, but still classic at the same time because it's very citrusy, and it's currently for 16 bucks. I think it's totally worth it. If you guys like classic style fragrances, I think you're gonna like this one. Those of you that might not enjoy classic style fragrances, I would use caution with these fragrances. But if you love lemons, bergamot, mandarin, cardamom, lemon verbena, leather, woods, you're going to be all over this. I would think this is kind of like a classic take on Eau Sauvage. Eau Sauvage, I think, has been modernized. So perhaps if you got a bottle of Eau Sauvage in the 60s and 70s and 80s, you might get something kind of like this. But either way, a great scent. I think it's very lemony, so the lemoniness is pretty astringent, I should say, because not only does it have lemons in it, it also has lemon verbena, so it gives you double the boost of the lemoniness. Anyway, this is ULRIC de VARENS UDV or UDV VIP for 16 bucks. So that's the last fragrance for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. If you're a fan of these or not, I'd like to find out. And also let me know of any other inexpensive, budget, cheap fragrances that you are using currently that you think are worth highlighting. I'd like to find out some more. I'd like to continue doing videos and a theme of discounted or budget fragrances so you guys can find out, and of course I can discover as well and add to the collection here. So let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. Let me know if you have them. Let me know if you can take advantage of getting a bottle and look for discounts, as I said, and I have links in the info box. But other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. And speaking of classic fragrances, I'm going to offer you guys one more option here. This is another Jaguar fragrance, but much older than the Jaguar Classic from the early 2000s. This is Jaguar for Men, which launched in 1988, created by Terry Wasser, and currently selling for $17 online. And again, this fragrance and along with this one are on the classic side, but this Jaguar for Men is even more classic. If you like fragrances like Polo, Van Cleef & Arpels, Pour Homme, Parfum, Drakkar, you know, fragrances like that, Dunhill, and you know, the classic Dunhill fragrances, and fragrances in that genre of aromatic fougere, chypres, and things like that. You'll really like this particular one. It's all about pine needles, leather. There's gardenia here, basil, lavender, spruce, thyme, amber, cedar. There's tobacco, musk, grapefruit, nutmeg, patchouli, tangerine. Lots of stuff going on in here. It's pretty complex with notes, but it's an eau de toilette after all, so it wears a little thin. Again, you have to have a wide palette. You have to have an open palette for classic fragrances. If you only have sampled what's being sold at the department stores currently now, you're probably not going to like this one, but I think it's a great value for 17 bucks online. And I really like the bottle. It kind of reminds me of Polo a little bit, but it's its own unique thing. It's definitely a car brand. We've got a couple of car brands in this video, but I think this is definitely a quality fragrance created by Terry Wasser. Anyway, the last and bonus suggestion for you is Jaguar Classic for Men. If you're a fan of that, let me know. If you hate it, also let me know. Put a comment down so I can find out. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.